all of a sudden, all the headlines say crisis. But let's be honest, is it really a crisis, or are we all just overreacting? So today I want to break down 10 things that I've jotted down that I think are the reasons behind Liverpool's current dip in form. And we look at everything from emotional and mental struggles to tactical tweaks and player issues, and why it's not really the end of the world for the Reds. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is Red Tactics with Neil, where we look at the tactical side of what's happening at Liverpool Football Club, whether it's in match days or whether it is in moments like the current moment we find ourselves in. So let's jump into this 10 reasons that I have for why Liverpool are in the state as that they are. And I think number one, we have to be cognizant of the emotional state that Liverpool finds itself in, where they are from an emotional perspective and point of view. And I think a lot of us forget oftentimes where Liverpool are and what had recently transpired in the club. So Virgil van Dijk mentioned the impact of losing a teammate, and he's right. We just lost Diogo Jota, and I think people have so quickly moved on from that they haven't paused for a moment and just thought, like, what is it still like in that dressing room? What are some of the players still going through? And, you know, the passing of Diogo Jota isn't just about missing goals. It's about losing a friend. It's a personality and the energy in that dressing room. So the impact that this has on the team as a whole, I think, is massive, especially for those who have played with Diogo Jota over the years and have built and fostered these friendships, this camaraderie, this brotherhood, if one would like. And I think that spills over into the team at large. And, you know, emotional recovery affects performance. The first season Liverpool look off, well, they're still healing. And attached to that, I think point number two for me is mental fragility. And yes, they are very fragile because of that emotion of where they are, and couple that with the results that they had across the last 3 games. Now, under Jurgen Klopp, you know, and we see it now under Slot as well, Liverpool's biggest strength is also sometimes their biggest weakness, and that is emotion. They were known as the mentality monsters, and it was, you know, they played with a lot of heart, with a lot of courage, with a lot of emotion, and they were known as the mentality monsters. And I don't think that we are seeing that at the moment, and it is because of that fragility. And when they're flying, they're unstoppable. Let's not get that wrong, or let's not even get that thought twisted. When they are doing well, they are really unstoppable. But when the results, the confidence does crash a bit, and we are seeing that happen at the moment. And this team needs to rebuild its mental rhythm and not just its tactical structure. And I know a lot of people are calling for making this changes, and you should have made that change, or you should have brought in this player and left out that player. But I think the important thing to build is that mental strength again, and then making Liverpool this big mentality monster that we have known this club to be. And once we get that right, I think that is 90% of your problems solved right there. And so once you've solved that, I think the other 10% would be the tactics. So remember that this is a tactical transition under Arne Slot. And with that transition, you know, there's a lot of things that comes into play. So Slot is trying to evolve Liverpool's system to try and make it more possession-based and less, I think, transitional chaos, if for lack of a better term here. And the players are still learning it. You can kind of see that, you can feel it, and sometimes it feels frustrating. But you can kind of feel that they are still learning this new tactical system that Slot has introduced. And you can see the confusion in pressing triggers and spacing. And I think with time, that will come right. They just need the time to adapt the system, learn the system, understand it, and then it will be better at its implementation. So this is not failure. It's adaptation time. And I think the team must be allowed to adapt to this system. And once it all unfolds and we all see it, I think then we'd have a better and a greater appreciation for how the game is played under Arne's slot. But I must say, I'm also not disillusioned. And it makes me think of something I like to term the Konate conundrum. So Konate's form has dipped badly so far. Hasn't looked himself. He's looked a shadow of himself. And I know Virgil also had some issues. But I think overall, Konate has badly dipped in form. And it reminds me of when Trent looked very disconnected last season, physically fit, but mentally distracted. And I don't know if it is some of the whispers that his head's being turned to Madrid. I don't know. I cannot confirm that. I also wouldn't want to go after conspiracy theories, but I want to say that it looks and reminds me of when Trent had the exact same thing happen to him in the last season. So his inconsistency is really hurting our defense, and it is hurting the rhythm. And yes, I said one of the things I don't want to focus on, or that isn't a big thing for me at the moment, is the transfers, who we should have bought and could have bought and who we didn't buy. But I do think that it does lead into this whole thought and idea of, does Liverpool have enough depth when it comes to its backline? So not signing Mark Gay, for example, that was a major miss. And you can kind of see and feel it now if we look at players like Gomez, who might not be available, and injuries to Leone, and the defensive shuffle that's forcing midfielders to drop back. That's unsetting the shape. It's also making it very, very difficult to play when you don't have the players that is in your squad available at your disposal. So Liverpool need depth at centre back. That is a given. And I think that this is a little bit of a conundrum tied to the Konate conundrum that Slot needs to solve for. And I think that is why we are seeing the lapses in quality at the back. And I know a lot of people have been saying, well, Liverpool have been looking very vulnerable at the back this season. Well, do understand that Liverpool doesn't have the depth that it probably should have had at the back. And I think the acquisition of Mark Gay could have solved for that wonderfully. Now, we know that it isn't Liverpool's fault. Neither is it the player's fault that he is not playing in a Liverpool shirt. And that, I think, is squarely on Palace. But it is a bit of a problem at Liverpool when you don't have the players in the squad that you would have liked to solve this problem available to you. And I am thinking about Leone. Very unfortunate to be out with injury. Joe Gomez as well with injury, just hindering his performance and availability. Frimpong is another one that's still a little bit fragile and getting a lot stronger. And so it leaves one with the very, very difficult decision on who do you play at the back in those positions where you need someone. And that's why we see Dominic Szoboszlai having to fall back and be played out of position in that right back position where he could have been a valuable asset in the midfield. And when we look at what's happening in the midfield and the gaps that's left there, it kind of flows into what's happening up front. And we don't see the supply of quality balls going to the front line, coupled with the fact that Salah has had a dip in form. Salah's numbers are down. We have to admit that. Let's be honest about it. And it's not just compared to last season. It's not looking good. I think if we have to be honest, that Vert's stats this season look better than Salah's at the moment, and that's how badly his form has dipped. He looks less sharp, he looks less decisive, and besides that, he's not receiving the type of balls that he would have from Trent, and so that quality is missing as well. But it's not just on him. We need someone to step up into that Trent role to supply him from deeper zones. The dynamics have changed And that's another thing that needs to be solved for. And I think if we can get Salah a little bit sharper in the front, it really changes what happens with our attacking line as well. Now, in that attacking line, we have Hugo Ekitike being phenomenal and fantastic. We've got Alexander Isak. And then, on the other side, we've got Wirtz and Gakpo. And I want to just pause by Gakpo for a moment, because I think Cody Gakpo has been too one-dimensional lately. You feel like he's stuck between being a striker and a midfielder. I don't know what's really happening over there. And when Liverpool's attack lacks variation, they become very predictable. And that is a major red flag that needs to be sorted ASAP. Now, I just want to pivot back to that front two, and just say that I hope that Isak's health and fitness fitness improves really soon. But on Ekitike, he looks promising, and unfortunately, with the red card from taking off the jersey and then missing out another match, I think he could have been a valuable asset that would have been fantastic at Liverpool's disposal. Just missing out on that a bit, and I think that has led to one of these results, at least looking the way they do. But at least he looks promising in that attacking line over there. And that's fantastic. Now, Isak, I think, is adapting very well to Slot's system. It is fantastic to see. And when he hits 100%, I think we're going to see fantastic and phenomenal things from the lad. And that's what excites me. And I've mentioned this before. I'd like to see Slot be bold and go in with two strikers. Why not play Ekitike and Isak at the same time in the front? And perhaps we'll see some of that experimentation later in the season. I know I'm excited for it. I don't know what you are. You can let me know in the comments what your thoughts on that are. But Liverpool's rebuild is still mid-phase. It's like City in 2018. The blueprint is there, but the chemistry does take time. And we need to allow this to happen. It needs to be a steady, natural build and flow for the team. However, you can't build attacking confidence on a shaky defense. Now, Slot's possession system exposes spaces that Klopp's didn't. With the Gegen press, with a high press, you had your fullbacks on the halfway line. So very, very high, very, very condensed, boxing the opposition in. And I think with Slot's system, it's possession based, it's that type of system, and it exposes spaces that Klopp's didn't. Now, until we get our defensive core, settled and right, the whole team looks vulnerable. But when there's vulnerability like this is when you need big players to step up. And Virgil van Dijk is correct in that post-match interview. It's not just on the manager. Salah, Gakpo, Wirtz, McAllister, leaders have to lead. And Slot can only do so much. And the momentum starts with players taking responsibility. Well, my thought about all of this is that Liverpool's issues aren't about crisis. They're about transition. It's a team learning a new rhythm, carrying emotional weight, and adapting tactically. So every great side has a blip, right? I think we can all agree to that. But it's how they respond that defines them. So before we talk crisis, let's talk character. Up the Reds.